Welcome back. Episode, I'm at 119? 119 of The Grouch and the Brainstorm, and I am Mike, and I'm joined today with Jill.
Hey, guys.
And Matt.
What's happening?
And Cal.
What's up?
And we got Cal with us today.
The man, the myth, the legend.
The legend. We were just talking about that. Legend. That doctor's offices all over North Louisiana.
Yes.
Cal, we're glad you're here with us today.
Glad to be here.
So
we need that podcast before the podcast episode, you know.
I just feel like we don't.
well, I mean, that's all I said was something simple. So anyone can draw their own conclusions. Feel free. Jill, I like the hat backwards.
Thank you. I mean, like,
becoming.
it just, you know.
Felt like a hat backwards.
You ever try wearing a cowboy hat backwards?
I mean, no, I don't wear cowboy hats too often.
Well, in Texas, you know, we all have to have a cowboy hat. It's standard. They give you one at the line, and then you have to give it back.
Lies.
Give it back when you're coming across to Louisiana, and turn it back in. You know,
Right. And they give you probably a lasso.
Mike, I bet $20 you don't own a cowboy hat.
I
I
do.
was
You
just
do?
about to ask
I
that.
own a cowboy hat, and
Could you wear
and
it next time, please?
I mean, my headphones
And bring
may
the
not fit around it.
nunchucks, okay?
But boots are optional in Texas, unless they're those little tiny boots, the ankle boots, you know,
Croc boots?
that look like boots. Yeah, then some guys
Booties.
Like the dude on Reno 911 had.
Can I make a
New
request?
boot
those
goofing.
those white ones, those
You,
white.
Turn the AC on or something. I feel like I'm back at home in Ghana.
We're gonna try to go with that as long as we can.
Is that in Louisiana?
Oh man, it's right next to Rhea. You know, the Twin Cities, Ghana and Rhea.
What?
And that's just
They go together.
they get their name for a reason, folks. Kind of like
Good one.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
The antibiotic city is what they call that. I think they're
Yeah, let's give it a clap. Anyway, Joe. All jokes aside, Jill, how have you been? What you been up to?
I think I've been doing good.
Well,
That's always subject to change this time in my life. A lot of cleaning up my property. I mean, that's just basically what I do. We had a pig escape this morning.
yeah.
And
great
it was
pig
my
escape.
fault because I had my crock pot full of red beans and tomatoes and all kind. I mean, like pineapple, all kind of discarded vegetables, and I threw it in their pen, but yet left the crock pot near the fence, and they busted through that fence like a champ.
Yeah. They take what they want. They're like the honey badger of pigs. You know, they do what they want.
Yeah, they do, and so you know, just I guess that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yard work.
Yeah, I mean, like I have to keep up a lot of acreage, and it's just me, so it's very time consuming.
Yeah. I get it. Cal, hadn't seen you in a while. What you been up to, bud?
No, just working, man. Working, and now I'm spending quality time with my daughter. I'm good, man.
Quality time with the kids, man.
Chilling. That's it.
Matt, quality time with all 12 kids.
All 12 kids. Some of them I'm getting some tests done on. I'm not sure if we own those kids, but for now they're here.
DNA testing is very important.
I go with the old reliable. I go on like Maury Povich, you know, and that's how I find out. You know, I am the father. I'm not the father. But yeah, man, chasing kids and
Is
cutting
he
grass.
still alive? Maury Povich still alive?
Probably.
Yeah, it was Jerry Springer that died.
Jerry Springer died.
Yeah,
Yeah, a while back.
I love
he
that
died.
guy.
you
I
gonna be
didn't know
okay.
he died. That's
I love that guy.
One of the greatest shows ever created.
Man, I mean, they
You've
changed
got to be
TV.
shitting me.
No, they
Jerry
changed
Springer.
TV.
That's
Yes.
like the worst. Oh, sorry to poo on your.
Here's the thing: people watched it.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
what makes it successful.
Oh, they watch it a lot, and where I work, no, it's trash.
Well, you know
TV.
those epic pieces that are made that make history. A lot of people only see them once or twice, and then you have some of the shows that don't technically, I don't know, invite every crowd, but people watch them every day, and they generate cash. And when you generate cash, then you've actually
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, I
value.
get that, but it doesn't mean it's quality TV.
Hey,
So let me ask you this:
The cat.
we're watching 60 Days In, Lacey and I last night, and they have one now like Narc, where they're going out in the neighborhood instead of putting somebody in jail as a narc undercover. They're doing it out in the neighborhood, and I'm like, how's this going to work? I'm watching it in my mind. And they show this lady, they move her in like a trailer park, right? And they're like, oh, we have hidden cameras and all this stuff. She walks like out her door and she's like, hey, guy next door, where can I buy some meth? And they're
wow.
filming the guy, and he's like, oh, I don't know anything about meth. And I'm like,
I've never
he's
heard of it.
lying. But here's my deal. There's 800
stupid.
cameras out there. How is this even supposed to be real?
Right.
I
When did they
mean,
come and install the cameras? Like at night,
yeah,
undercover?
Like they're all getting out of the car. They're like, hey, sir, could you tell us where meth is?
They obviously don't have copper wire in the cameras, or they'd have been gone
None.
before they ever started
None.
filming.
Yeah, so anyway, that was pretty lame. I turned it off. I was like, this isn't
And what's it called?
60 Days In Narco Land or something like that. This is the new thing. But
you know, that's a great point you put out, though, man. Just think about the media. They know most of Americans don't give a fuck, or they care to research, or they're not intelligent.
Yeah.
So, of course, that's fake, but they're still gonna believe it.
well, and Lacey likes Duck Dynasty. Okay, she loves Duck Dynasty. We watched some episodes of that last night, and I'm like, you realize this is scripted. I mean, it may not
Am I
be
supposed to curse?
a scene, but
no.
you know,
I didn't.
they're giving them stuff to say and do, and kind of funny scenes to do to make the show watchable. It's not like all this is just off the cuff, you know. So
And when I was over in West Monroe, I mean, those guys would come up in the store on a regular basis, the cast of Duck Dynasty. And,
Oh, yeah.
And actually, a friend of mine who is he runs the area here for a local company, but when he was in high school, I hired him, and he's still in that same company many years later, but he runs the area here. And when he was over there running just one facility, he actually was on Duck Dynasty. They went in his store and were bagging groceries and stuff like that, and they had him come down. I actually happened to be looking at something on the phone, and it was that episode, I want to say a week ago, where they were talking about him and bringing him in and how to bag groceries, believe it or not. That's the whole conversation was how to bag groceries, and they brought him in, and that, you know, that's pretty cool though to see someone local like that. I mean, he graduated from Magnet High back in that was probably in the mid '90s. Now it's been a while back, but I mean now he's over. You know, he's over the whole thing. But he was actually on their episode, one of their episodes. So
What was the name of the school? You said Magnet High?
he
Caddo
graduated
Magnet.
from Caddo Magnet High here, or over in Shreveport. He worked for me when he was in high school. He was a bag boy, and yeah, he went on to that's funny in the career I'm in. You know, you hire people and you hire them as kids, and you know they're just doing it after school thing. You know, and then before you know it, they're you're old and they're running the entire show. You know, that's a lot how retail works, especially if you're willing to move. You know, that's a big one. And it doesn't have to be a big move for those guys. It could just be across the state, you know, over to West Monroe or Monroe, and then back and do really good things. You know, I've talked to him a couple times since he's been important, you know, but he's still just a really great guy. He was a sweet kid whenever he was in high school. But man, yesterday we had that's where I'm getting my topic from today, by the way. For the first time ever yesterday, all three of my grandchildren were I have 4 grandkids. One of them can't leave the hospital, obviously. 3 of them, though, were in the same home celebrating my 3-year-old's 3rd birthday party. We had a little party for her. It's her first party she's ever had, right? And so her mother and her father and my son, his wife, their 2 kids, me, my ex-wife, we all show up at this birthday party, and you know we do gifts and all this other stuff. But you got 3 guys there, and a broke down Corvette in the driveway, and there's just some kind of magnetic force that pulls you to this.
Oh, I'm sure.
Whenever you have three grown ass men and a broke down car, it's kind of like the Progressive commercials where you become your father.
It's like a bug light.
And so they're trying to have this birthday party, but I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on with this car. Why is this car still sitting here? Wyatt, I was here a month ago. It was sitting here. I was here 2 weeks ago. It was sitting here. We're here today. Why is this car sitting here? And he gives me this laundry list of things it could be. And anyway, long story short, I just decided at this moment to take action. We're going to do something. We're going to go down here and we're going to start figuring this stuff out, right? So me, my son-in-law, my son, we all go out there and start tearing this engine off this car piece by piece, just pulling it. And I had to leave and go back to work, and leave the younger guys to it. So, but I came back that afternoon and we continued to work and we got closer to our goal. We now know it could be one of two things, right? But taking action is what it took in order to get anything done at all. If not, the car may have sat there for 2 or 3 more weeks. Or if it came down to it, someone takes it to a mechanic, a real mechanic, and has them fix it. But nothing happens in my life, and I don't know about anybody else's, really in a positive direction unless I take action. And that's just for me. That's what happens with me. I have to get up and I have to actually do something about these things that I've always thought about, but thinking about them just doesn't really get it done. And I looked at my sobriety on my way home, and it was a very enjoyable ride home last night. 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'm on a motorcycle driving through Texas. Sunset. The air's fine. It's just a really good ride. And I'm thinking in my head about my early sobriety. And a lot of times I do, especially around my birthday, my anniversary, or whatever we call it now. But as I'm going, I'm thinking, all those years, it was 11 years that I was basically a car sitting in the driveway. And I had the best of intentions to do something, but I just never would get up and take the action. I just would not do it. And finally, circumstances got to the point where it was so bad, I had to. I was forced into it, right? I was you're either going to do it or... And then there was a moment of clarity. A lot of us have that moment of clarity. But the program of Alcoholics Anonymous in itself in general has taught me that not just the program is all about action. It's everything in my life seems to be just about action and doing something, And then and on top of that, this strange epiphany hits me. And y'all know I listen to older music sometimes, and it used to be older. Now it's really old. It's classic. But I'm on my way to the store to pick up a part for said car, and there was a song on there by Sammy Hagar. And if you don't know who that is, he's a solo guy, lead singer of Van Halen for several years, maybe 10, and then he went back solo, and now he's still doing solo stuff. But he had this song called "Give to Live," and I'm not going to go into the lyrics and all, but the truth is, if you want to have faith, you got to believe a little. If you want to love, you've got to love a little. I mean, just some of the lyrics in this song basically said, hey, we got to give to live. If we're going to be able to live ourselves, we're going to have to be able to sometimes turn the cheek, sometimes give. And then there's sometimes with me, I have to take action. This podcast didn't start with all the stuff we sit here and see on the table. It just didn't. It started with me actually doing something, and I ordered some subpar equipment, and then it just moved forward, and it got better, and it progressed. But it was something. There was some action taken there, and in my recovery, if I hadn't take action, and my very first action obviously was going and saying, I got to have help, right? That was my very first action. My second action was something I'd avoided for many, many years, and that was, well, I guess my second action would be going to a meeting. My third action was something I avoided years and years and years, and that was getting a sponsor. I just did not want to get a sponsor, and I don't have a problem with a grown-ass man making me call him and all that. None of that bothered me. I just didn't want a sponsor. I just felt like I was smart enough to do it, and then I got one, right? But it was all just a course of not talking about it anymore. I've just got to do it. And there's a part of me, and it still exists, by the way, I'm just going to tell y'all, that don't have courage, that just does not have the courage to do stuff. I just got to do it. And then, getting a sponsor really doesn't have consequences. If the guy says no, generally where we're at, they're going to help you get one if somebody really wants you to help. Matt, I've referred a lot of people to Matt because of his infinite wisdom.
Infinite something.
And his location to the Koalas Club. But anyway, taking that action, and not only in AA or any one particular thing, but just in life. And
absolutely,
the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous always says, action, take more action. We get through a step, and that's great, but there's still action. And you hear those words, and they resonate in me because a lot of times I take action. And here's the last thing I'll talk about is, I have a really great crew at work, and they are on top of things, and they take care of me, and they do a really good job. And in a huge facility like that, there's a lot that goes into it. And I have about 15 of those guys, right? And every day we get together and we point out opportunities that we need to work on every single day. And some of them are systemic. Some of them can be done sitting in front of a computer. Some of them are physical. You have to actually, and after about 3 days, if nothing has been done with these things we keep talking about, then I jump in there and we all get together and we take that action, right? So taking action, crucial to me. I mean, I don't, if anybody got a take on it? Jill, you got the mental take on that, taking action?
Well, I mean, like in my case, I think the majority of my life, outside of recovery was just me not taking action. I mean, I literally, the delusional thinking of it would just all kind of miraculously just poof appear, and it didn't. So I just stayed frustrated. I was lazy. I mean, I was super lazy, and I just thought I just didn't really know how the real world worked. But, in recovery, I tried to be lazy at first. I really did. I procrastinated, and it took me a while to get through the steps and stuff. But I really, around year 2, started like busting my ass and taking a lot more action. And it's important because when I do, I have the results, like emotionally, mentally, all of that. Like I feel really good. It takes action to go through the steps, and I think like the opposite of action, stems from fear. If you think about it. Mm-hmm. And that's how I used to live my life, in fear all the time. And I was afraid that I would succeed. I was afraid that I would fail. So I just kind of did nothing because I knew if you succeed, you'd have to do more, right? You'd have to do just too much.
Yeah. There's more action after action.
And I didn't want to be a total loser, but, so I just stayed in this neutrality, and, I have motivation now. I have courage now. I have this get up and go now that I used to not have. And that's really important to me. Because I won't get anything done. I can procrastinate. I can put things off. But I try not to be that person anymore. I'm not like that. I'm not like that at work. I take my work very seriously, because, for so many years I didn't, and, it was ridiculous. And so I don't know. I mean, action is important to me because I don't want to rest on my laurels and find myself at square one again. And it has, and I think action is can be different in many regards. You know, the action that I took in my early recovery is different from the action now. You know, I feel like I'm in a different season where less is more, just for my sanity. And some people may not understand what I'm talking about when I say that. But it doesn't mean I'm still not doing things. Like I said, the action is different, and that's just life. I think that it will change, and it will continue to. But I still say plugged in, and I still, you know, do the things that I need to do that best suits me at the moment. Action looks different for everybody. You know, I mean, it could be if you have mental health issues and you just sit on them, it's not it just doesn't just poof disappear. I mean, we've got to take action in order to eat, in order to survive, to make money. And I think we've all probably been at a point in our addiction to where we really want, the only thing we're putting action into is getting high or getting drunk. And it didn't lead to anything good. What's great now is that I put action into things that do good and are good, helping other people and just doing whatever I can. Everything now is more selfless than selfish. But it takes action. All of it does.
Sure.
And I think that our general well-being as a human is a direct result of that, taking action, but in a positive way, because we could all take action to, you know, in a negative sense and have the same consequences that we used to have. But that's part of the, you know, recovery is changing our actions so that we don't end up where we used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like Winnie the Pooh says, the only way to get to where I'm going is to walk away from where I've been.
Absolutely. Did you just remember that? Like,
Yeah.
that's saying that's in your head?
Yeah, it's kind of stuck there.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. Did you realize that Winnie the Pooh's grandma is technically a Pooh nanny?
I knew something was coming.
I'm telling you, some of the logic you get off TikTok is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. If you ever watch the movie Christopher Robin, it's full of all kind of those little spiritual things. It's the only one that comes to my head anyway.
Cal, you was in the military, so say, taking action. I mean, that applies. I know with sobriety, but what's that mean for you, like overall? And how was your experience military wise with that? I think it's the same thing, you know. Just what do you think about that?
Well, before we even start, Mike, you asked us how we're doing. How are you?
Oh, I'm okay. Thank you. I
'Cause
appreciate
I ain't seen
that.
you in a while either.
I'm not used to people asking me how I am, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem, man. But as Mike stated, I mean, taking action is everything. But I think it's more than just a topic. I think it's something that needs to be addressed, looking at the source of the issue. So for me, example, at home, I didn't see too many people being active and doing things and getting up off their ass to make things happen. So I think that mentality was kind of built into me, you know, for starters. Not until you have a overall mind shift change and say, I need to do something different to be better than what I'm seeing right now. So I think a lot of that came from home. For all of us, you know, so to speak, before we even thought about utilizing a substance or going out into the world and making something of ourselves. So for me, you know, I saw a lot of that at the home front or through my extended family. Those were the examples that I had. You know, it was very minimal activity, not unless you wanted to go do something that you needed to get done right then and there. You know, and it wasn't until I got a little bit older to where I said, I want to do something and be better than what I'm seeing right now. So I got up off my ass and I did it. But another aspect I will touch on too with what Mike was saying is the action part, right? I think the common misconception that before we even come into the program is that a lot of people have this idea that God didn't do something for me and he failed me in this specific, area. Yeah. And they forget the entire point. All right, God does everything for us. It's like that footsteps thing. It's just you need to do one thing. You have to do the work. Yeah. That's it. So people fail to realize their lack of effort, but they always put blame on the master. So I go into everything like you was discussing the military. My mindset totally shifted when I said I want to do something to get out of this area, this specific environment that I am in, to make myself better. So the mindset that I use is the same mindset that it takes for me to court a member of the opposing sex. I give all, right? The same mindset that I use to go get money to buy alcohol or to utilize a drug. I give my all. Mm-hmm. So that's the mindset I used with the military. Yes, it was rough and tough at the beginning. I wasn't used to a lot of things, but I had a mindset that if I start this, I'm going to finish it, no matter what the obstacles are that approach me or come my way. And I've used that same mindset to shift it to what we're in right now here. Like Jill said, of course, I was abrasive at first, and I was reluctant to listen to somebody and give a man a rein in my life, But if I wanted something that everyone else has, and I'm watching it physically have a positive impact in everybody's life around me, and I'm still stuck in this mindset, I need to do something different than what I've been doing. So, of course, that's action, But I think a lot of that it deals with your ego and humbling yourself, to accept another approach. And that's what I use in the military as well as this. Again, I'm not going to sit here and be like I'm active every day, because that's a lie. But, or taking action every day, And I think by nature, as we get older too, sometimes it's good to procrastinate, and you want to hold things off, but you find that balance, and you figure out, all right, I need to get on top of this before this piles up, and a secondary and tertiary effect to me just sitting down and not doing nothing. So I think when you become older and you reach that maturation phase, then your action is kind of balanced. But yeah, that's how I use this topic, throughout my life.
Always like what you have to say, Cal.
Absolutely.
Always. And brilliant.
Take it into a whole different perspective than most people think about.
Right. And I like what you said, about action, in your own, in your delusion or your cognitive distortion about what action really is. Because I actually thought I was doing stuff, if that makes any sense. Like back in my addiction, and like I wasn't. I had really great enablers, and I just didn't do anything.
Chasing your own tail.
But I did. I felt like I was in neutral, and I was just spinning out. Yep. But I was doing something, and once you can get past like what you actually think action is, because I thought I was doing all these great things, and now that I just that was the delusion right there. And I remember in early recovery trying to, because I'm still learning about myself and my thought patterns. And in early recovery, learning about what action truly is, it took me a couple of years. I still wanted to procrastinate, fool myself on my own cognitive distortions, because I was still learning how to be honest with myself. Plus, just freaking exhausted. I think I slept a lot of my early recovery away and, wasted time on BS, things I shouldn't have. Yeah. But I didn't, at that point, know what the payout would be. So what's the point? And I don't think I'm alone in that way of thinking, because that's still selfish way of thinking. If I do all this action, what's going to happen? Because if you think that you've been doing action and nothing's happened, then what's the point? And that's, I think, what I felt like until, of course, I worked the steps and I had a spiritual awakening. And then I started building on it. And then I start seeing all the results. And I'm like, damn, oh, that's what they mean by like taking action and doing something. I started a sponsor, and I started to see the results of that. And through hard work, I see all the results that everybody else had. But in my mind, I thought I was doing the same thing. You know, when I went back to college to get my master's, that took an enormous amount of action. And I was scared to death because I think fear will inhibit, you know, of course, the action. But man, I had to get tutors. I mean, just in statistics. But I read a lot. I read all my books. I did all the homework. I did all the papers. I actually put something into it. I took a lot of action, you know, and I made A's. And we've talked about this before. I was kind of a C's, D's, and F's kind of gal. Gall?
Gull. Yeah, like the bird, the seagull.
Well, and that taught me at 42 years old, that if I put action into things, I get results. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of was a really, one of my favorite lessons I got in recovery was learning that right there. Is that if I do something and I do everything I can to make it happen, and, you know, putting in the footwork, that's how I built my esteem in recovery. That's how I like it. That was all just part of like building that foundation. It's a lot of doing. And guess what? There were failures, not a lot, but I got to learn. And then I tried it a different way. I didn't just say, you know what, fuck it, I'm out, like I used to. Because action also entails perseverance. To keep on and to keep on and to keep on. And if you want to have this long game in recovery, it doesn't mean that we have to limit our action. It just means that we have to continue if we want to be free and continue.
Well, you bring up a really good point in perseverance, continuing over and over again in order to achieve a goal, right?
Right.
Because that's also another part of taking action. I often tell some of the people that I work with, and I don't like to say they work for me or any of that, more like I work for them, right? Mm-hmm. But I like to tell them whenever they're just to that point that they want to give up because everything they've tried has failed. I always tell them, you know, the only way you're ever going to really fail is if you give up.
Yeah.
Like that's it, period. This life thing we live, whether it's recovery or anything else, this is not a sprint. It is a marathon that continues to change, right? And that, you know, I'm Michael... say Michael Jackson didn't walk out on the basketball court and become a, you know, famous basketball player. I meant Michael Jordan. You know, he didn't walk out in one day and say, you know, all of a sudden the clouds parted and you know the Lord looked down and said, "Wham!" This dude practiced all day, every day,
and he probably lost thousands
he got
of
cut
games
in high school.
Yeah,
got cut from his high school team.
And Eddie Van Halen, if you ever read any of the biographies on them, and if you don't know who that is, he's one of the greatest guitar players of all time. That dude played guitar all day, every day. He basically gave up his whole life. Like when all his friends were out doing whatever in high school, he just playing all day, every day. And same with Jordan, same with Babe Ruth. Like that, of course, back then they apparently didn't have, you know, it's a little bit different ball game back in the 30s because Babe Ruth looks more like a golfer than he does a baseball player. But, you know, he didn't get like that just by trying one time or maybe a week and then saying, "Oh, I'm not any good at it," and then moving on, right? He had to keep working towards that goal.
Right.
If I get back to Dallas today and we have this new part and that car doesn't work, we're not just going to leave that car. We're going to keep taking action over and over again you know, even if that action consists of getting a real mechanic out to come fix the car, we're going to keep taking action because we're working towards a goal.
Well, I think that's why they say, you know, it's a daily reprieve.
Well, I like that. I
It's
like
not
the way
just
I like the way you put that in there, because it is a daily reprieve.
Yeah, it's not just like, oh, I'm going to once a week, you know, check in and see what I can do.
Do you mind if I say something?
Absolutely, Cal.
Please jump in.
Listening to what you were discussing is, I think a lot of people have a negative outlook on people who don't take action and, you know, take charge of their lives. But I don't see it as that. I see it as it's just a lot of people don't act because they are unsure what's going to happen. You know, that's basically what you were discussing.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's what limits a lot of people from doing it, just the fear of the unknown. You know, but it always struck me as odd here in the program when, you know, now that I have a little time, I'm still young in the program. I think I'm like, the comparison would be like a toddler in the program. If you ask
How many
me.
years you got, Cal?
I'm coming up on July 23rd. So I'd be like a toddler. You know, I'm going to second grade in the program.
Back in the day, someone that had 8 months was an old timer.
Oh my gosh, remember
Oh,
that?
for real?
And yes, absolutely. You know, if the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous was written, and the literature we follow, when Bill Wilson was 3 years sober.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That is something
Dude, I
that
was
when I
so
look
stupid.
back on now, like started 2017, I just thank God each and every day. And it goes to my next point is, like you said at the opening monologue when you was discussing give to live.
Mm-hmm.
That's the concept of the whole program. And what does that mean? You got to be active. In order to give back what was freely given to me, I have to do something. And I'm remaining active, and it's keeping me on my square to stay sober. But I really like your discussion, because a lot of the stuff we do in life is based off of the fear. And I just don't know if I put all this into that, will I reap the benefits, you know?
And it kind of makes me sad. I mean, because I think there are hundreds of thousands of people, probably millions, that are in that same boat. And I think it has a lot to do with, like so much to do with fear, but like not knowing what our potential could possibly be. I like talking about that. I talk about it with my clients, and I do talk about Michael Jordan, because I think we all have unlimited potential, but our fears keep us from taking action and doing the things that we think are possible or not possible or whatever. And that limits a lot of people. And it just, again, it makes me sad, because I was one of them, because I was so depressed and full of anxiety. I didn't know any better. And that's what makes me sad. If I wouldn't have gotten a sober, I would still, I just don't know, and it scares me.
You know, and this has been my experience with that. I came in and there's 12 steps up on the wall. There's these steps. There's get a sponsor. There's do all these things. They're telling me all these things. I see all these people with 3 years and 20 years and 40 years and 6 months. And I'm like,
Yep.
I can't do all that. Like, I don't know what they're doing. Like, that's not my deal. Like, I can't do all this stuff. And I'm real grateful that I had a sponsor, and I did listen to folks in this program. That's one thing I did when I came in AA that I did right, was I listened. I listened a lot. And so I started listening, and then my sponsor, we had these 12 steps, and he said, we just got to do the first one. We don't have to do the other 11 today. And we're going to do them. And then in those simple things of let's work on the first one. And all of a sudden you look and you go, oh, I'm on step 4. Like, I've accomplished something. I've done 3 of the 12 steps that they're talking about in here. And now I did 7 of them. Holy shit. Now I even felt like I accomplished when I texted my sponsor in the morning. Talked to my sponsor today. Did it every day. Talk to my sponsor, and it was like, I am doing what they're asking me to do. It's weird to me, but I feel better, even though I'm not really, I don't really have any wisdom or wild change of stuff, but I'm becoming a pattern of doing some things that I'm slowly accomplishing some things. And I do that today, and I learned this from my sponsor, is I make a list. And I have a guy right now, and we made a list of a bunch of stuff that he's got to do. And he doesn't know that I did the same thing with my sponsor, but he's like, well, there's 8 things I got to do. Man, we can't, but he did 2 of them. And he called me the other day, and his whole mood had shifted. And I could see his whole mentality was shifting. He's only done 2 of the 8. He's not near finishing it, but he started on it. And that's the attitude shift of like, okay, this isn't the end of the world. We're going to see a result. And it gets rid of a little of that fear and puts a little confidence in, okay, I can manage this, a little bit at a time. And I learned that listening to people in there, and they would say how they it took them 20 years to get a 1-year chip, and I'm like, damn, that guy took forever. And I'm like, but he did it. He kept coming.
Yeah, and it took what it took.
He kept coming. And now he's got 10 years. So, you know what I mean? And I heard those things by listening. And I think it was because I was desperate enough. I was like, I'm either going to figure this out or I'm dead. So that was the gift of it, to just go in, sit down, shut up. And did I hear everything was spot on every single time? Hell no. Sometimes I went, ooh, I'm not doing that in a meeting. I went, I don't want to do that. That's the beauty of the program and listening to folks. And folks being honest and sharing and going, this didn't work for me. Like I screwed this up. And them being honest helped me grow. And that's where, that was where the shift was for me, is to go, it is a marathon. Nobody says that there's no checklist that says you have to have the 12 steps done in 30 days. You have to have this done. And it doesn't work that way. You do what you do, and it's your recovery. And I think everyone, once they start to see a few results and some of that fear starts to dissipate as you do some small things to just change and improve, that kind of pushes that stuff out the door slowly but surely. And
absolutely.
My brother always says this, and I'll let y'all talk about it, but my brother used to tell me all the time, he said, you either handle your business or it will handle you. That's his favorite saying.
I like it.
Yeah. So
I also think that's why people say baby steps. No one wins a marathon by just, they have to start off by running small distances and building themselves up to, maintain the distance or whatever that is, baby steps. We have to take it easy while we do this process. What's that turtle? The slow thing?
Tortoise in the hare.
I know they never call him
Isn't
a
there a
turtle and a
saying?
rabbit. They
I'm still trying to figure out the Winnie the Pooh
About
deal.
the turtle does something.
tortoise and a hare.
So back in the day, we had the Shreveport Captains here. I don't know if anybody remembers them.
Oh, yeah.
I actually got my Willie Mays autographed ball by Willie at the captain's game, sitting on my mantle at home right now.
So my uncle was the GM for the Captains, and they were a San Francisco Giants organization. That was their
farm
AA
club.
farm club. Mm-hmm. So the summer I turned 16, he'd been with them for 20 years. He's like, I want you to bat boy. And I played baseball, and I'm like, man, these are pro guys. You know what I mean? They do this for a living. So we turn on ESPN at night and we go, oh, it's the Rangers and the Yankees, 7:00. The pitchers out there, the guys are all got their uniforms, or, they're ready to play. Well, for a 7:00 game, they get there at 11. And each team takes time to take batting practice. They hit ground balls. Mm-hmm. They do that shit every day, every single day. Today, it's 100 degrees. If they're playing a game tonight in Dallas or wherever they're playing, they're arriving now to take batting practice. These are guys that have taken 100, 200, 300,000 ground balls in their career and probably won't make an error the entire season. Some of them, they're still out there taking ground balls the day of the game, before the game. That's what we're talking about, those baby steps, and to keep working at things. You don't just show up and the game starts. It's those little things, mm-hmm. And it was cool to get to see that as a teenager, watching guys every single day, same thing, show up, do their deal. And, the work ethic of it and the commitment to it, that's pretty cool, but we have to approach it the same way. You don't just show up when there's a giant issue and go, I have wisdom now. No, you just grind at it, so.
I like the examples that you guys give. Those guys are all playing for money, and to get better. So the example that you gave about the guy taking 20 years to get a chip, a 1-year chip, that's the one. I think a lot of people that's listening to this podcast, especially newcomers, that's the one they should take heed to.
Sure.
Because it takes time. But you also, so you was discussing the marathon and you was discussing a sponsor. I think for those who are new or who are deciding to make a decision to come into this program and change their lives, it all starts with one thing, and that's your mind shift changing, your mindset changing.
I couldn't agree more.
So you was discussing the sponsor. I think it's imperative for those who are new and you have yet to pick a sponsor, go to a meeting. I don't care if you share. I don't care what you do. Just go. But it's imperative to find somebody that you relate to. And I guarantee you that person that you find is probably going to be a direct opposite. Like 99.9% of the time, someone you would have never have chilled with outside of this program, but they will have a lot of things in common with you. So I think it's very imperative to go and to listen, and that will put a battery in that action compartment in your head to say, all right, I'm ready to do this. I found somebody who I think I would be comfortable with. So go sit down and find somebody that you can be comfortable with, and I think that will help people who are just starting to be more inclined to take action and accept this process so they can get better.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. It was very difficult for me to change my way of my ways of thinking. I didn't know how to, and I had to go to therapy because I didn't know how to. And I still had a lot of these self-defeating thoughts. I still had a lot of fear, a lot of things going on. And that's when I was introduced to CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is change your thoughts, change your actions, that kind of deal. And so, I had to seek some outside help for that. And, I was able to call myself out on all the bullshit that was going through my head, all the irrational thoughts, all the fears. And that helped me out tremendously. I now, as a counselor, teach that because it's stinking thinking. And we believe it. And like I said, I had to take action, as well as for that, and just to seek outside help and to change all of that. I can still get caught in those same ways of thinking if I'm not careful. But it's always something, not always, but it's just little things here and there. Sometimes I just have to challenge and ask myself, is this true? Is it irrational? Is it exaggerated? Yeah, probably so. Then that's not the truth. And so, I always want to let people know there are other, ways of learning how to change your thought processes as well.
You're talking about the sponsor and being opposites of, and mine, if you on the outside, we like a lot of the same stuff, fishing, stuff like that, right? But that's where the difference is. The way he approaches things and the way he is the opposite of me. Everything I always did beforehand was emotional and a jumbled mess, and I made bad decisions because I was emotional about things. He's just like, get a piece of paper out. A, B, C, D, E. Let's write the list. And I'm like, I don't do that. I don't write lists. It's all up here. I got it.
God bless.
I like it.
Hurricane Katrina, right here going on. Yeah, look how good I'm doing with that.
Rain
and he'd
Man.
go,
Rain Man.
yeah, and he would go, no, we're going to do this, this, and this, and let's start right here. And I'm going, well, this is slow and boring. And then I went, oh, but it's successful. It works. And my shit was not working. I felt like chasing my own tail. I felt like in my head, oh, I'm on this. No, I'm not. I'm not on any of that. And I learned to slow down in order to speed up, and actually get some stuff done. And even early on in decision-making processes that we didn't sit down and do a piece of paper. I was going through a divorce a couple years after getting sober. And I'm like, this is going on and this is going on. He goes, well, let's think about it this week. And it'd be Monday, and I'm like, no, this is happening right now. And it just, then all of a sudden I realized he wasn't on the phone anymore. He said, we'll talk Thursday. And that's what he meant. And I went, oh. And so I learned to stop and step back a little bit. And like Cal was talking about, maybe not procrastinating is the word, but pausing and going, let's get a good outcome on this, or something moving in the direction. And man, that's a game changer.
Don't confuse impulsivity for action.
Yes. And too, my talking about taking action, and maybe some of our sponsors, my little nephew CJ, he's 8. He's been wanting to fish with my sponsor on the boat, go get on the boat. So we took him last Sunday.
I was wondering who that kid was.
Yeah, so and
Just thought it was another one of the kids.
Yeah, well, he kind of is. But that kid, I just want to say, he was adopted when he was about 8 months old. His mother was going to prison. He had a lot of drugs in his system when he was born. And he had a very tough, getting through that as a baby. He was adopted, and my sponsor has known him since he was little like that. And he's been around him. Well, we go fishing the other day, and he's fired up, me and CJ, and it hit me in the boat with all three of us in there, how sobriety's affected all of us in that boat, in different ways. And CJ didn't have a choice. He was born with that stuff in him, and to see how far everybody's come, it's kind of cool to look at how Alcoholics Anonymous has affected everybody in that boat in a good way. And but we were riding up to the lake, and he goes, it's real hot. And I've been fishing behind my house in the pond, Uncle Matt. They're not biting real good. And I said, no, they not. I said, but I'll tell you one thing. I've never caught one sitting on the couch. Not one time. Never. You have to be in a boat with a fishing rod, or you have to be near the water to catch one. You
definitely
get your butt
helps
out
being
there.
closer
Makes
to the
sense.
water.
Yeah. And we got there, and
Fishing
there's a
rod
sign
optional.
there's a sign-in sheet, and nobody had been on that lake in 3 days, right? Nobody had been out there.
In the
Nobody
whole
signed
lake?
in. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's hot. People don't want to get out there and do that. Well, we
It
ended up
is
catching
hot.
3 real nice fish, and we had a good time, and he had a good time. And I told him on the way home, I said, if you'd have stayed at home in the air conditioning, you wouldn't have got to do any of that today, and that goes back to effort. You have to make the effort, attempt. Not guaranteed you're going to have the result, but but yeah, it was cool taking him and seeing all that.
Well, I'm never going to take action and come out.
You are coming out there. Yeah, I talked about it.
I need a fishing day. I also need a fish fry. But what I also, wanted to mention is, if we don't take action and we don't fail, we'll never learn.
I think, and you're the brain person here, but basically, isn't that?
I guess I'm the grouchy one.
Isn't that how humans learn?
Yes,
from failure.
yes, absolutely.
I mean,
Failure, it's just how we look at it.
We've talked
how
about it
I looked
before.
at failure back in the day was, oh no, I suck. And then that was it. And I quit. And I got into self-pity. But now it's like, oh, okay, well, I failed and I've learned something. I'm going to do it different now, and I'm going to do it until I get it right. And so I don't think failure's a bad thing. This is what hopefully should motivate us to learn something and change.
And there's two kinds of mistakes. So I ran grass crews forever, and you can have 10, 15 guys at a time on big properties. These aren't mowing little people's yard. And it's a coordinated effort. You can waste a lot of time, a lot of payroll. If guys don't know their job, they don't know what they're doing, they can duck out, and it may be hours. And believe me, I could write a book about that deal. But you would have guys that would new, and they would go, well, I don't know where I'm supposed to be right now. I'm just going to go to the truck and smoke cigarettes and hang out till somebody tells me what to do. And then you had the guys that would go, man, I'm not real sure where I'm supposed to be, but I'm going to go over here and start mowing on this area. And it may have been the wrong one, but I can deal with the aggressive mistake. I can deal with you trying to do it. We can redirect that. You hanging at the truck smoking cigarettes, mooching the clock, I can't deal with that. And it's kind of like life. If we can make that effort, and it may be the wrong effort. It may not be where we need to be, but we can go, oh, okay, I was putting action into it, and just back up and push in the right direction.
Absolutely. Yeah. If I'm ever at work and I don't have anything going on, I walk straight to my boss's office. What can I do?
You need to come talk to the guys I used to run. They would lay on.
But you know what? Before, I just didn't even show up to work. I mean, I don't know. My work ethic is
There's that too.
It's very important to me because of the person I used to be, and I couldn't hold jobs, and because I just didn't do anything. I just did what I wanted.
Yeah. It's funny how the successful and you see guys like Mike was talking about the guys bagging groceries. I see guys now that 8 or 10 years ago they showed up on a crew and they were on my crew and they didn't know their head. They didn't know what they were doing. And now I bump into them in town and they're a manager of a place and I'm like, I remember when you didn't know how to put gas in the darn thing. And it's funny. And they go, yeah, man, I learned but they put the effort in, they tried to learn it. And that was the difference in getting what they always got or doing better. So
absolutely.
And taking action can be completely life-changing. I mean, you just really can change all of those intentions, kind of like Jill, we've all kind of alluded to it a little bit, but instead of breaking off the entire project, break off a little piece every day if you have to, right? And, I was looking at that fence out there and I was like, that fence, if you put up 2 foot a day, right, in the length of time we've been doing this podcast, you could have done all the way around your whole yard. But talking about it, planning it, thinking about it, you get no fence. You just, nothing, right? So, but I remember early sobriety, one of my biggest fears was not being able to be a good father to my kids, and y'all know how I am about my kids, and making up all the time that I had, and it was a fear, and I wanted to be a good dad, and I prayed to be a good dad. Actually, I prayed to be a few things. I wanted to be a good husband, and in looking at my life now, you would think that prayer wasn't answered, because I'm not married and haven't been in many, many years, but that might be the best way for me to be a good husband, to be quite honest with you. And, and I'm a good ex-husband, try to be. I can keep my mouth shut a hell of a lot better as an ex-husband than I could as a husband. And I wanted to be a good father, and I wanted to be a good friend and a good son. And the one that challenged me the most, though, was my kids. And I was thinking, I'm not going to, I'm just not going to be able to do this. And, so I had to break it off into taking action, go get them. I had to endure a little bit of stuff I didn't want to listen to from my kids. I had to hear them tell me the truth a little while, And I remember one time my son, he went off on me. We were out at the track, and he couldn't have been 13 years old. The kid's, 27, 28, so he's probably 14 years old. He went off at me. We was out at the track walking, and everything he said was true. I mean, everything, and it really burnt my ass. But instead of, that's one of them things that pop in your head. Don't do what you want to do. Do what AA is telling you to do right now, right? Because I was newly sober, and so I didn't. I just kind of let him say what he had to say, and then I dropped him back off at his mom's, and I went to a 8 o'clock meeting, and luckily the 8 o'clock meeting was, even more yelling and screaming profanities at each other. So I kind of got to forget all about, it was a pretty rough 8 o'clock meeting, but
8s can be wild.
I forgot about what was going on in my life for that hour. Trust me. But, long story short, going through that, and we went through it every day. I just remember thinking, I've got to do everything I can to be a good dad, and that might not be doing nothing right now. And to be quite honest with you, this kid has more sobriety than I do. And I remember thinking that, and I remember believing that, and looking back, he probably didn't. now that I know my son better, he probably didn't have as much sobriety as I did. But And he's what, 7, 8 years now, right there with you, Cal. I think you and Matt, somewhere in between you and Matt. So, and taking that action, he actually has texted me a couple times since we've been doing this podcast, and he's on his way to an auto parts store to get a part. He's going to come back. He's going to let me know what has it spreads. It kind of spreads in my family, in what I've got going on, right? So it can be life-changing. It is for me. I like to think now I'm a good dad, because there are 4 people that exist right now that did not exist whenever I got sober. God knew they were going to. He knew that I needed to get sober. He knew that somebody had to be here to do some of these things. I used to think I wasn't selfish, right? Matter of fact, even up until probably 12 years of recovery, I used to think I just didn't really categorize myself with those people who say they're selfish. And I would talk about being selfish, and I would say, hey, look, if I'm supposed to be selfish, I'm selfish. If that's what y'all tell me I am, I'm selfish. But in my heart, I didn't believe I was selfish, right? And then my daughter has this son, and you go see him, and he's eating out of a tube in his side and going out of the bathroom out of a tube in his other side, and he's got a trach down his neck, right? And he wears a helmet, and he's always having somebody working on him or poking a needle in him or prodding him, and you go see him, and then when you go in that hospital room, he gets excited to see you. That's unselfish. Mm-hmm. That's what real unselfish. So I kind of learned from a less than a year-old child that, yeah, I am selfish. I am. I see it now, right? I have that tangible thing. Now I can probably do a little better at working on it every day, right? And hitting that goal. So taking action, Matt.
I was standing in Longview working earlier this week. I stopped at a gas station fixing to jump on I-20 coming back to Bossier.
You were standing in Longview.
I was standing in line in Longview at a gas station.
Okay.
And
What?
but I'm we have all these things going on in life, and I'm like, I got to get back to Bossier. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got all these things, and I'm half in a bad mood about it. Things feel like I'm not caught up on things. Blah blah blah. And I'm standing there in line, and I look in front of me, and there's a little girl that's probably 6 years old. She's standing in line with her mom. She's got on a Wonder Woman outfit, like old school Wonder Woman, right, with the little skirt on and everything. But where the skirt, it was a little kid outfit.
Linda Carter never wore a skirt.
Well,
this is hard.
Yeah, well, this had a skirt thing, but below the skirt were 2 metal legs, prosthetic, whatever you call them. What do you call the titanium?
Well, they're either braces or they were actually prosthetic legs.
I think they were legs, but they're sticking out under the outfit, and I'm like, oh man. So I'm just standing behind her, and she turns with her mom to walk out, and I guess, I don't know if she had just gotten them. I don't know the little girl's story, but her knees were just banging together, and it took her probably 10 minutes to walk out of that store. And I just sat there and I was like, what a shithead I am. Like, I'm so worried about stupid shit that don't even matter. Like, I don't have problems. Like, these aren't problems. I'm over here with this big shitstorm going in my head because, whatever it might be. I was like, that's a real problem. Like, that's somebody that, and she just tickled to death to go in there and get an icy or whatever she was getting, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. It just changed my whole attitude just watching that little girl. And yeah, we can be selfish. We get so caught up in our own junk, and it's like, there's real issues, people have real issues. And so anyway, it changed my whole week, man. So,
we have a huge following in Brazil.
Hey guys.
What's up?
What's
In
up, Brazil?
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, it's just odd. We have a.
Really?
Yeah. I bet it was that Brazilian wax you had.
Wait, what?
We call it, well, I don't know if it was
What the hell are you guys
Brazilian.
talking about?
bet that's what
I've
it
been
is,
to Brazil. I went there for 11 days in 2010.
I
Is
would
that where they have
love-
Carnival?
Well, yeah.
Or in the big statue? Or is it
And
Rio's in
around that
Brazil?
area, Rio de Janeiro.
I need to go.
Yeah.
It was
Huge
nice.
following.
Really?
Yeah, I'm
like,
sure.
what do you mean by huge following?
And they're all in Sao Paulo.
Yeah, Sao Paulo. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, they're all there.
You don't go there now. Like, you're married. You go when I was younger.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord.
It's like the Mardi Gras of South America, kind of.
So,
Yeah.
like when it breaks down the UK, like we have 3.7 in Wales and 11.1 in Northern Ireland and 85.2 in England.
What is that? 85.2 what?
Percent of the followers from that country.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
That's where they're from. I mean, I never knew it broke it down. I was looking to see if we have, the Czech Republic is our latest attendee.
got a new one?
No, our latest is the Czech Republic. But I was also noticing so 46.2 of our American followers are from Louisiana. 46.2. 34.5 are from Texas. Then we got 4% from California, 2% from Florida, 1% from New York, 1% from Missouri, 1% from Tennessee, 1% from Illinois, Arkansas, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, Alabama. There's one that just ain't even got a name. Mississippi, Washington, Virginia, Utah, Oregon, North Carolina, Georgia, Colorado, Arizona, Idaho, Indiana, Wisconsin, New Jersey, Massachusetts. There's all of them. How about
I would like to say a shout out to our 1% listener in
Missouri.
Yes,
I was just
Amy.
thinking about that. Yeah.
Hey, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got like
She's awesome.
Yes.
I didn't realize it broke it down into the geographic region of the different
That's
countries
pretty cool.
that we have listeners in. I got to see one thing real quick while I'm here. Singapore actually is broke down. Canada is broke down. Switzerland, I bet it's one person in Switzerland. Yep, they're from actual Switzerland. Yeah, there's
Monica.
Yeah.
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 Her and
so-
her kids.
You know what's crazy about that, man? Yesterday, the meeting was based off of the Daily Reflection, and the title says the determination to carry on with the vision. That's taking action.
Yep.
Imagine if they didn't take the action, we wouldn't have what we have
Yeah.
here today. The breakdown,
I'm gonna tell you what, the
That's
people
true.
the
That
people
is
that
so true.
that listen and hit us up on social media, man, there are so many good people out there with so many different types of recovery things. They have different programs, they have different things going on. But man, what a great community. And we do, man. We have some loyal people, and they watch and they say stuff and comment. And we had our episode. I will say this: we had our episode about. I'm not going to say the listener, just in case he doesn't want me to say. But we had our last episode about sex and 13 stepping and all that stuff. And this gentleman has a men's sober living thing in another state, and he sent me a message, and all he said was, "Great episode." He said, "We always say the pink will get you faster than the white." And I said, yeah. So think about that one. Sometimes the relationships are worse than the drugs. Like they'll do you worse than drugs. So
Jill had to think about it.
yeah, Jill's still thinking, but that's okay.
And I have no way of seeing how many followers we have anymore. Isn't that crazy? I just can't.
So many they can't calculate.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Broke the calculator.
We have played 10,444 times just on Spotify.
Wow.
Yep, and we actually have 183 followers as of now. And remember when we were at like 118 and we needed 120? That's pretty cool too to have some. So, man.
If you think we don't have loyal people, we have 183 followers. We have 10,000 plays. Put that in your, see what that comes out to. I mean, they listen. You know what I mean?
And they go back and listen to old episodes too. I do notice that some of our older episodes that move up in the charts. So that's pretty cool too. So
Yep.
And believe it or not, our most listened to episodes are generally speakers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Speakers, like people who tell their story, right? And you can do the rank. I'm trying to figure out. Randy T's is slowly climbing, but that was some really bad audio, Matt. Thank you.
I think I did that though. That's why everybody has to listen to it so much because they can't hear it.
You can hear Matt talking in the background, telling jokes to whoever's sitting by.
Me and Ben.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Burping.
I'll do one for you. I can't find my book. I like to come prepared and write it out.
Whenever you're ready, man.
That's okay, man.
I'll do it for
We're,
you.
hopefully we ain't going nowhere. Our most listened to episode still is the very first one. The very first one has been listened to 358 times, and because of the Wi-Fi connection, that's the only one that it's shown me. Oh, episode 2 is the second, and then 4, and then Phil F. It's 161.
Phil is a,
Yeah, Phil's got 161 listens over.
Talking about bad audio, that one was better than Randy. Well,
Dickie T is right behind Phil, and then Lacey L is behind Dickie T, and then we get into Jill L, and then we just roll down the hill from there. So I don't know, man. If you didn't learn anything from this episode, you now know what Winnie the Pooh's grandmother is called.
Yeah. and but by the way too, on YouTube, our YouTube channel, which is we've had 6 months now, probably
About 6 months, yeah.
but we're approaching 5,000 plays on YouTube.
Yeah.
So we're rolling to it's slowly creeping along. So but it's very steady. The same thing is very steady. Every episode's so many plays, and people are they're loyal to it, man. We appreciate it.
And
Sure
I hope
do.
somebody just sits there one day, they have, they just kind of lost maybe, or don't understand them, and just say, pick up an episode and just listen. That's what we're here for. The whole purpose of meetings, as it's said by the Big Book, is to show newcomers that there is hope and give them recovery. It's to bring the newcomers somewhere. This is really just a kind of a meeting, so to speak. It's obviously not as anonymous as some of the meetings are, but this is
Right. Well, there's at least two of us, and we're talking about recovery.
that's it. Yeah. We don't pass around a basket or redo the readings, but besides that,
Yeah.
it ain't about what is it? Sometimes these things turn into a popularity contest, or the same people get picked every time whenever we're sharing, and that's not any particular group. I've just seen some of the groups and heard some of the feedback from the newcomers, and that seems to be it. So,
Yeah.
give you something to listen to. Cal, thank you for coming.
Absolutely, Cal.
Appreciate you.
Always a
man.
pleasure.
Oh yeah, love having you here.
Thank you.
Matt, glad you could make it.
I'm glad
today.
I was here too. I'm glad,
Yeah.
guys.
And so no more announcements. Do we have any announcements?
I'll give you one.
All right.
Just for fun.
All right. Go ahead, man.
This is just mainly because I know you like to do the announcement music. But I am going fishing with said sponsor later on today. I did kick his ass last week. I want that on the internet. And it's coming back again today. It's going to be a double ass whipping. That's all I got.
All right. Let's hope you still have a
Nice
sponsor. when
announcement.
all-
Probably don't.
And hope we don't end up on Dateline.
That's right. That's right.
All right, guys. Well, we've been in Bossier City, Louisiana. We've been the Grouch and the Brain. We've been in Bossier City, Louisiana. We've been at Rule 62 Studios. And as always, we are the Grouch and the Brainstorm.